Hello and welcome. My name is Andreas Pfeiffer and I like to show you how easy it is to create a mobile application using Omnis Studio. In this example, we are going to create an order application for restaurants that we call Cucina Piccola. The service staff will be able to take the order using an iPhone or an Android device directly at the table. The order will be automatically transferred and can be seen immediately behind the bar or in the kitchen using an iPad or a browser window on a desktop computer. When the beverages or the food is served, a simple click will mark it in the browser. The icon color becomes yellow on either device. For checkout, the service staff can print the receipt directly from the device to the printer. All orders for this table will be marked as paid. If you would like to develop this little application with me, then you might want to download and install the Omnis Studio developer version from www.omnis.net if not yet done. Please register for a free eval serial number, a downloads free trial. Omnis Studio is going to ask for a serial number when it is first launched. You will get the latest development version of Omnis Studio at downloads, latest installer for your own platform, Windows or Mac. After downloading, please install and enter your serial number when you start it. Let us now have a look at the files for the exercise. There's a folder CP that contains all the pictures that we need. Copy this folder into the application support folder of Omnis Studio. On Windows, you will find the folder in App Data Local. Please note the App Data folder is hidden and you might need to type it when it is not shown. On the Mac, it is hidden too. You can click on the Go To menu while the Command key is pressed. Then you will see the menu item library. Click on it. From there, please navigate to Application Support and Omnis Studio. There you will find the files that belong to your Omnis Studio installation. In the HTML folder, there are all the JavaScript resources that you will need. You will find the Images folder. Please copy the CP folder that contains all of our pictures into this folder. There's also our CI picture, Cucina Form Top PNG, that you might want to exchange with your own CI picture if you want. Alright, let us now look at the other files. There is the Omnis Library CP Final LBS that contains our finished project, in case you want to cheat a little bit. There is a small SQLite database, Cucina Piccola DB, and a second library called Resource Library that contains some example code that we are going to copy into our own library. Let us now start the Omnis Studio developer version. In order to create a new library, click onto New Library. Click on Blank Library to create an empty library. Create a new library in the folder where the Resource Library and the Cucina Piccola database is located. Let us call it cp.lbs. Now we have created an empty library that only contains some system classes and the startup task that is used to execute code when opening the library. Let us look at the properties of the library. Use the right mouse click onto the library and then choose Properties on the context menu. This opens the Property Manager on the right side and shows all the properties of our library when you enable Show All in the checkbox. In the Prefs group, you will find default name that we set to CP. If the library is renamed in the file system, then Omnis will still use CP as the library name. In case an application is using several libraries, it ensures that no library references will be lost. Let us create a new class now. Click on New Class and choose Remote Task. We call it RT Task. A remote task encapsulates all connections from a client to the server. Let us check its properties. Here we have, for example, client address that tells us the IP address of the client. When you enter a timeout value, it will automatically destroy the connection if the client is idle for this number of minutes. The isSecure property allows to make a secure connection between the client and the server using SSL encryption. It requires a valid certificate that is installed on your web server. Okay, now we're going to create a remote form that allows us to design the graphical user interface of our application. We call it JS Test. A double click on JS Test will open it in design mode. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. On the bottom you will find the component store that contains graphical components that you can drag and drop onto your remote form. Let us add some buttons and entry fields. We also add a larger object such as a data grid. You can change its position and size. At the upper edge of the form you will find the so-called layout breakpoints. There are currently 3 of them: desktop, tablet and iPhone. This allows us to set individual positions and sizes for each component in different screen sizes. We can make this one a little bit smaller. You can also hide individual components for certain library breakpoints when you set the property visible breakpoint to false. We can move this field into the gray area to clear the space for the other fields if you don't need it. All right, let us arrange the fields. You can test the remote form at any time when you right-click onto the background of the form and then choose Test Form. Your browser opens and shows the form. When you change the width of your browser, you can test the layout breakpoints and see how the components are automatically rearranged. The remote form has got a property in the action group where you can enable an animation when the browser size is changed. Just reload the browser page or click again on Test Form to see the different behavior. I do not recommend to add layout breakpoints to any possible size of available mobile phones. The fields itself should dynamically adapt their edges. Therefore, there is the attribute property in the appearance group. Here we define that the grid object is going to have a floating edge at the right and bottom edge. First click on Set for all layout breakpoints in order to make this change valid for all layouts, and then click on KEF right button. As a shortcut, you can simply type Ctrl-T or Command-T on the Mac to open the browser. Now you can see how the field automatically adapts its edges depending on the size of the browser or the device. Next, we are going to make a connection to our database. Click on the SQL browser in Omnis. There you will find the session manager that we use to set up a new database session. We enter a name for the new session and choose the database management system to be used. Omnis comes with interfaces for all major databases, such as, for example, Postgres. You can choose between native access or ODBC or JDBC. Our example library is based on a SQLite database. As the host name, we need to enter the path name to the database file. Use the button far right to pick up the file. Please choose the Cucina Piccola DB from within our example folder. Now we have filled out the host name correctly. There is no support for username and password. Click on OK in order to save this setting. Click on Back to leave the Session Manager. We are now able to open the database using the link Open Session. Here you will see the just defined database session that we can now open. Now we see the database tables, views, triggers that we have in the database. A double click on a table shows its structure. There is a Show Data in the context menu that allows to see all data of this table. Another nice tool is the Query Builder. On the left side, it lists the server tables that you can drag and drop into the design area. Choose the columns that you want to use and click on Build and Run. It generates the SQL statement and sends it to the server. You will see the result set. We will add a row title concatenating the string table in single quotes using the double pipe symbol with the table ID column. We add an alias table name for this column and click on Run in order to test the SQL statement. Now we use the SQL command case to show in the next column whether the table has guests or is available. Compare table taken when one of the guests on table, otherwise table free. The alias for this column is status. This is now the final version. I have added a column icon that we set to 1. This will later be used in the UI. There is a menu button on the upper right. Click on Create Table Class. A dialog appears and we can choose our library CP. We call the new table class TA Table. We do not want to create a window or a remote form. When closing the Query Builder, we can save our statement. Since we just generated the table class we don't need, let us open the methods of the new table class using a double click on it. In the construct method, you will find a code line that tells the table class which database session to be used. The method $load contains the SQL statement that we just designed, written in Omnis. Now let us create a remote form that uses this method to display the table list. We call it JS service and we can open its method using its context menu. We declare an instance variable iTableList. The type will be a list, and in the subtype column we are going to choose the just created table class. Now in the construct of the remote form, we enter the command do by typing a D. Now we are going to send a message to the table list to call the $load method. Now we open the form using a double click. In the component store, you will find the native list control. In the group, native components. Please drag it onto the form. When the control is selected, please enter the list variable iTableList into the data name property. Using the name property, we name the component grid. In the last group of the property manager, called data, we can tune the grid and determine what column of the grid takes control over certain things. In the third column that we assigned with value 1 becomes the accessor type. Column 1 and 2 become text1 col and text2 col. Now we can test the form. If everything is okay, the data should be displayed. The third column determines the icon on the right side that we need to navigate to the next level. This was the first part. In the second part, we are going to fine-tune our remote form and show icons and pictures in the list. Bye-bye.